Today, I'm checking out the Zero Breeze Mark III portable air conditioner. It's easy to move around, it's battery operated, it's twice the BTU of its predecessor, and now it even has heat functionality. Let's dive into the latest product from Zero Breeze.
Hey guys, I'm Tyler, and today we are reviewing the Zero Breeze Mark III. If you followed my channel for a while, I did a review on the Mark II a long time ago. I thought it was a really good option for rooftop tent camping. It got me through a lot of stuff whenever I'd go into desert areas or even the Midwest. Now that I've lived in the mountains for a long time, the night temperatures in the summer get down to like 50, 60, usually at the most. And so I have become very acclimated to sleeping in the cold. So this thing helps me tremendously when I go to places like Arkansas or Missouri in the summer months, and it is just brutally hot. Some people can sleep in that stuff with just a fan on, but it's hard for me. So I'm traveling with a senior dog. It's mandatory to have something like this. She has special needs in her old age. So something like this makes a lot of sense for me. And so I wanted to touch on the new unit. I think that they've made some awesome upgrades on this thing. And so we're gonna dive into what some of those features are, and we'll do a brief comparison to the older one. So before we go any farther, I do need to disclaim that Zero Breeze did send me this unit for review, but that's not gonna have any effect on my opinion of this thing. In all fairness, I've been a fan of the Zero Breeze Mark II for years now. I've used them a lot. And so I have a lot of confidence in what this thing is going to be, and we'll dive more into that here in just a minute. So let's first dive into why somebody might want something like this aside from like a dog or something like that. There are different options out there, of course, for vans and stuff like that. With rooftop tent camping and my type of camper, the Alu cab, doing something like that, it's not really designed to be cut into and use a system like that. And the other thing is that those systems run either a ton of electricity or some of them run on propane. They're very heavy units and they run off of, it's pretty much shore power. Something like this, you can run off of AC power, so you can run it off of one of your battery banks. It has a battery that you can buy with it, and you can run this thing off of solar. And I have done the solar thing in the past, 8 hours at a time before, and it was awesome because you wouldn't be able to do that with other options out there without shore power. I was using the sun to cool off the cab enough for her to sleep, and sleep very comfortably. She almost got too cold. So that's kind of the use case with these. And I think that this version, the Mark III, has come a long way because over time, as I used the Mark II, there were things that I found that I didn't particularly love. And there were things you just kind of get used to, but this addresses a lot of those problems. So let's dive into some of those. Okay, so one of the first things that I'm excited about with this is over twice the BTU of the Mark II. This one is 5,280 BTUs, as the Mark II was 2,300 BTUs. So for my use, the Mark II was perfect for a rooftop tent when I was camping, and it was like 85, 90 degrees, high humidity in Arkansas. Man, that thing really got me through, and I'm not kidding. That thing helped me once when I was getting heat sickness. And I was getting dizzy and nauseous and stuff, and I had to go up into the tent. I'm so glad that I had that Zero Breeze that night. And the reason I'm excited about this having twice the BTU is because I now have a setup that's more than twice the size of my previous tent. In this Alu Cab canopy camper, it is still a pretty small space, but something like this is going to work, as I think the Zero Breeze Mark II probably isn't gonna do much. So we did take this down to Nevada. I did a bunch of testing on it while we were doing a video down at Area 51. Super excited about that video. It'll be coming for too long. If you wanna see that, subscribe, of course. But it gave me some insight on this AC, how well it works, some of its features. First and foremost, it does have a thermostat now, which is a big deal in my eyes. The old one, you pretty much just set it on whatever mode, so you can actually set a temperature on this and it will maintain, which is also going to reserve some battery capacity because it's not just running full blast the whole time. It will actually see that temperature and it'll dial itself back, so you're gonna save some power. On top of the thermostat, one of the more important features is, and I've got this thing all hooked up, is the battery. So let's discuss that for a minute. So the new Zero Breeze batteries are a huge step up from what they were before. The reason for that is it's actually not as much power. I believe the old ones were a 40 amp hour, but they were also a 24 volt, as these ones are now a 51 volt and they are 20 amp hours. It has similar features as the old one did, which is a USB-C, and I believe that that's a high output quick charging unit. It's got a regular USB on it, and then it also has a mini power pole port, which is pretty cool. So you can technically run like a fridge off this. But the major thing with these new batteries is that this thing can charge in like 2 hours now. The old ones took 8 hours or so. It was a whole thing. The other part of the old battery was that it was a dongle heavy system. It was like old Apple products. It'd drive me crazy. And so you had different cables that you had to carry around. If you didn't remember the cables in your SOL, and if you wanted to use one with the battery, then you couldn't use the charger. You couldn't charge the battery at the same time as running the AC. There are things like that. So there was a bunch of dongles everywhere. The cool thing with this new battery pack is that, well, one, it's easier to carry because it actually has some decent flexible handles now. But the other thing is that it does have the cable built into it. You can also pull this off of here and you can unwrap this, and then you got a pretty extensive or extending cable. And whenever you have this plugged into the AC, you can charge it at the same time. So that's a big deal. So the battery pack gets you through about as much as the previous Zero Breeze Mark II. Zero Breeze's official numbers on their website is rocket mode, which is the most powerful, which is 350 watts to 500 watts. One battery will run the AC for 2 to 3 hours. If you daisy chain 2 of the batteries together, you get 4 to 6 hours. And then on cool mode, which is 200 to 350 watts, you're gonna get 3 to 5 hours on a single battery, 6 to 10 on 2 batteries. Sleep mode, which is going to be the most energy efficient mode, 150 to 200 watts of output. With one battery, 5 to 7 hours, and with 2 batteries, 10 to 14 hours. Fan mode, of course, is gonna run for almost 100 hours off of it because it's not actually using the compressor on the system, which is what really takes the power. And then there's a dry mode where you can actually take humidity out of the air, and with one battery, it's 2 to 3 hours. Care mode, which is a spot cooling mode, 3 to 7 hours on one battery, 6 to 14 hours with 2 batteries. And then heating mode, which we will get into that here in just a minute. I'm very proud of that one. Heating mode is 200 to 500 watts, so 2 to 5 hours with one battery, 4 to 10 hours with 2 batteries. So continuing on the feature upgrade, so on the back, you do have a little hose. The old one had a huge hose that was not the greatest because water would get caught up in it, and also it would kind of pour all over itself. I didn't have this hose hooked up. But what is cool about this system is this one actually has a water pump built into it. So you could actually run this thing up and over something, and the water pump will actually still pump that out of the AC unit. So that's nice, because with the old one, you had to kind of level it out so it wouldn't go all over your blankets or something if you had it inside of your tent. So that is a very, very welcome feature. The other thing is on top of this, it does have a removable screen. So in the past with the old ones, it would pull in dog hair and stuff like that. And then you'd have to carefully vacuum that out or clean that out, and it was a bit of a pain. So they have fixed that with that internal screen. Normally there is a piece that goes here on the front that makes it look nice. I forgot that at home today, and it's because I had this on the front of it. Now, this is one of the big upgrades on this unit. So on the Zero Breeze Mark II, it had a single duct at the front. So whenever you'd pump that into your tent, you're creating a pressurized system. So some of that air has to go somewhere. So if you have like a little zipper open, one, it's gonna put some back pressure on the unit itself. And then two, some of that air is gonna find a way out. And so you're kind of pushing in some cold air, and then the other air is just moving its way out. Some of it's gonna be cold. So anyway, it can affect efficiencies. Now with this system, what they've done is they have built this to where it has 2 ducts on the front and 2 ducts on the back, depending on how you want to run this thing. The way I was using it is I was putting it on a table right next to the camper here, and then my camper has little windows on it. So I was running both of the ducts in through that window. And so now what it's doing is it's not creating pressure, it's pulling from the camper back through here and pumping it right back into the camper. So you just take the ducts and kind of face them away from each other, and it worked great. Okay, so this is where this AC gets kind of, you could call it dongle heavy, but it's actually not that big of a deal because you don't need to have all of these on at the same time. So it's got 2 on the front, 2 on the back. All of these can come off, and they've got little inserts that go where those sit. The reason for this is if you wanted to have the AC itself inside, say it's raining and it's hot in the Midwest, it gets even more humid whenever that happens, and it barely cools down. So you could have this unit inside with you and then have the ducting going outside to the window or out of one of your screens or something like that. The other side of it is if you have this on the outside, like what I was doing, then you use the 2 ducts on the front end of it. And so either way, you're not creating a pressurized tent like we were talking about before, or a vacuum. So me and my buddy Jesse were discussing how this could be used as a heater, or the Zero Breeze Mark II could be used as a heater. And I reached out to Zero Breeze about that at the time, and I went out and tested it on a trip. I got some blowback on that video. People thought I was an idiot, but it's a heat pump. It's creating heat. Whenever you're blowing cold air this way, the backside is venting out heat. So basically, you can use this thing as a heater now. The old ones you technically could, but it was quite a hassle to set it up. Now they've included the ducting and everything to where you could actually use this as a heater. But just be aware that if you're using this as a heater, it only really works down to 40 degrees. But it's a nice thing to have because I've been in plenty of situations where we thought it was going to be hot and it ends up being cold. And if you're already carrying something like this, and in Colorado, we get all sorts of fluctuating temperatures. So if I were to go down to somewhere like Grand Junction, Colorado, it can be scorching hot out, and then it can get cold at night if you go 2 hours away to the San Juan Mountains. So if you're gonna be carrying it all the time, it is nice that you can have a little bit of heat.
We just camped at over 11,000 feet, and the cold wind left us thankful that we had a heat source. The Mark III heat function is rated to around 5,800 BTUs, but it is limited to above 50 degrees. As long as it started before the temperature drops much below that, it does a decent job. I tried setting up the Mark III on the outside of our camper due to space restrictions, and it was clear that it wasn't the ideal choice. It worked well until the cold 40-degree wind started. Luckily, we had another heat source. But Zero Breeze does say that the heat mode is more for maintaining temperature.
The most efficient way to do it would be to keep the heater on the inside of your camper, your tent or whatever, because this thing, while it's operating, is going to let off heat that these ducts just aren't going to capture. So if you want the most efficient way to do that, keep it on the inside. So in line with all of this, the ducting is so much better on these. It's probably twice as long. So I can't even fully stretch that. The old ones only got to like 2.5 feet long or something like that. They were not very long. So these seem like pretty good, durable hoses. So you get 3 ducts in total, because this exhaust one is the biggest, and then this one will fit either here or here, and then you get the smaller one on the front end. So if you're just using it as like a spot cooler, you can run just the front one and just have the single if it's outside. If you're running it with a camper, you'd want to run both, of course, like I was saying, on whatever side you choose. Okay, another welcome function with this thing is it has a real remote with it now. The old remote was kind of a joke on the Mark II. This one has kind of a cool matte finish on the front of it, and it's much larger, which I'm totally fine with because I'm probably gonna put Velcro on it and mount it to the underside of my, my camper here. But you can get to all the modes on this, the light mode, all of that stuff, because it does have a light up mode that I'll put some B-roll in, and it's kind of cool looking. I always leave it off because I don't want any light whenever we're sleeping, especially not blue light. The fan speeds are on here, the temperature controls on here, and this just, once you pair it with your AC, then this thing just always works. So if you need to make adjustments, it works great. And for anybody who owned the Zero Breeze Mark II and you tried to use the remote and it didn't work because it was line of sight, it was so annoying. So whenever you'd have that thing outside of your tent, and you wanted to change a setting on it, turn it off, turn it on, you'd have to basically reach your arm out of the tent to point down at the thing to turn it on. It would drive me crazy. So this one is on Wi-Fi, and so this works infinitely better than the old remote did. And it will also tell you all of your settings, what the room temperature is, what your set temperature is. This does not have a thermostat built into it, however. Not that it needs it, because the way this system works is this is your output on cold air, and then your temperature sensor is on the intake. So it's seeing room temperature based off of what it's pulling in right here, just so you know. It also has an app now. So with the app, every time you open it, every single time, you cannot click anything to stay signed in. I am on airplane mode with no Wi-Fi right now. Let me test this Siri. Registration not available in this region. So the app does not work whenever you're offline, and that is super annoying. If you forgot your remote, but you always have your phone and you want to use this, if you're off grid, which is where most of the time something like this is going to get used, the app isn't really doing much for you. So that's kind of a downside. But I'm sure through firmware updates, because now this device can be updated through firmware, I'm sure they can fix that in the future. That would be one of my requests. There are a few cool features in the app: light control, child lock, temperature units, always on. You can change out some settings, and then also you can pretty much do everything you need to do with the app, which is pretty nice. So it's got some cool features. So both the remote and the app tell you how much time you have remaining on your battery too, which is nice. And I don't know how accurate it is. I don't have that much use on it, but it's nice that you have somewhat of an idea. Okay, so I'm looking at the spec sheet right now, and I'm doing a lot of comparisons. So why don't we just set the Mark II up here, and we'll quickly go through a comparison list and just talk about what's been upgraded, what's changed. So on the Mark II, the noise level, 52 decibels. The new one is quieter at 46 decibels. So on the battery for the Mark II is 840 watt hours, And then on the new one, it's 1,022 watt hours. And then the battery weight on the Mark II was 12 pounds. The Mark III has a 14-pound battery, so it does gain some weight. And then overall, the actual weight of the units themselves, this little guy was 16.5 pounds, as this one is now 22 pounds. So this one gains about 5 pounds overall when you have a battery on it. So that seems fair for twice the output. That's my opinion on it anyway. Charge time, like I was saying, this was like 6 to 8 hours at 80%. This is around 2 hours at 80%. So charging is a lot easier with this one. It does come with a power adapter that has a brick. So I thought maybe we wouldn't get a brick this time. It does have a brick. The upside is that it's a much simpler setup. It's not a screw-in system like the old one was. I think that drove everybody crazy. And then also this one doesn't have all the dongles and stuff like I was mentioning. It's a much more simple setup. It does not come with the solar charging ports and all of that stuff. So personally for me, what I'll be doing is I will be running this off of AC to a portable battery pack, and then I'll just be running solar through my battery pack. And then that will take care of that problem. And then the final usable stuff, 25 to 40 square feet is what the Mark II is rated for, as the Mark III is rated for 100 to 150 square feet. The prices of these things, $899, and they do still sell the Zero Breeze Mark II. And then the starting price on the Mark III is $1,300, and that is the starting price.
I should add here that while the Mark II required almost every accessory be bought separately, the Mark III does come with everything you're seeing on the screen at that $1,299 price point.
So we've covered all of that. Let's talk about portability. Like I said, this thing's about 5 pounds heavier. This Zero Breeze Mark II, you know, it is a smaller unit, but it's not by much. When you have the battery connected, it definitely looks like it's a much bigger unit, but just looking at the thing, it's really not that big of a difference. So they're super easy to move around. I think just about anybody could carry these up a ladder if they needed to. Portability wise, I was keeping this in the back of the truck. I had a strap going through the handle here, holding this thing down so it wouldn't vibrate everywhere. My wife had no problems moving it around when she needed to in the back of the truck, loading it up, doing stuff like that. So just like with the Mark II, this is going to have its limitations. A lot of people see something like this, they see the price on something like this, and they think that this is going to cool down their house or something like that. That's not what you're paying for. You're paying for something that can be run off of solar, off of batteries, and it is an adventure-friendly air conditioning unit to get you out into places where normally you might not want to camp. I know plenty of people in the Midwest that just stop camping in like July and August because they're like, you can't sleep. So it's one of those things where it's for those situations. If you still want to get out, you still want to go out on the boat or something like that, or in my case, I wanted to go visit Area 51 in a hot time of the year. And so having something like this is perfect for that kind of stuff. And I like doing that kind of thing. So to put this into context, like a car's AC unit, the one on the dash, is 12,000 to 16,000 BTUs. An SUV, like a large SUV, is gonna have an AC that puts out as many as like 36,000 BTUs. I just wanted to mention that because I know with the Mark II, there are people that had unreal expectations on what that thing could do. So while this thing is twice the output of the previous model, it's gonna be perfect for like sleeper cabs on semi trucks and stuff like that. It's gonna be great for rooftop tents. This will cool off just about any rooftop tent that's out there. So on my test with this in Nevada, the sun wasn't really going down until like 10 o'clock at night. That's when it was getting dark out, and that's what we were there for. So then we're going to sleep at like midnight or later, and then the sun was coming up and heating that camper up at like 5 o'clock, 5:30 in the morning roughly. So I would turn the AC on so we could actually sleep a full 7 to 8 hours throughout the night. So even for something like that, I mean, it was fantastic. And so what I was doing is I just had the remote, I would have this set up, and then I'd wake up when it started getting a little warm, and I'd turn that thing on, and we get to sleep for a couple more hours. And it really saved us. I didn't expect that kind of an early rise out there. I mean, it was getting hot fast. There's no shade anywhere. So this wasn't keeping this thing cool in the middle of the day or anything like that. I don't want to make those types of claims because it's just not the case, nor do I think it could do that. So with the thermostat, it is just such a big improvement on what the previous model was. The old one was just set and kind of let it rip. This one is actually going to be a little more efficient, and it's nice that you can actually set a temperature, because I did actually have situations where I got cold with the Mark II. So, you know, that's what you're wanting an AC for. but it is nice that this has some other add-ons. So I'm very impressed with this thing. The fact that they squeeze pretty much twice the output out of basically the same footprint is pretty impressive. I would be lying if I said that any product was perfect. So just to nitpick on this thing a little bit, I got to find something wrong with it because this is a review. So I would have to say some minor stuff. One thing that I noticed, because whenever I traveled with this thing, let me take this duct off real quick. So when I was traveling with this thing, this is an opening for the screen up here. And so that sits right there. Well, what it did, it scratched up the display up here pretty good. This is all really sleek and black. So this thing did scratch up that surface. That might bother some people. So if it does, just travel with this off. I just leave stuff on for the convenience sake of it. I would throw the tubes in the camper, leave this front set up just like this, and get down the road. But just be aware that it does have the tendency to scratch up this shiny black piece. The other thing that I have to complain about is that the app is, it's kind of annoying. I did do the firmware updates and stuff, and I'm still having the login problem, but it is cool that you can do firmware updates now, as the old one is just kind of like, oh, there's a problem. It is what it is. Most devices these days, especially in this price range, are gonna expect that it can get updated, so if they find a problem, they can go through and fix it with software. That's a very welcome feature. Another complaint I can share is just like what I was just talking about. So just like my Mark II that looks like it's a war relic, I wish that they would come out with some sort of like a transport system for this. Something that's like, I don't know. It's easy to strap this thing down. I'm not strapping it down with like a ratchet strap really tight or anything. I'm just using some roller cams, but just something that could protect it. Even like just a cover top that goes over the top of it, because I think a lot of people would be bothered that their brand new AC is looking so scuffed up already, and it doesn't really matter to me. All my stuff's usually getting pretty scratched up anyway, but it's just one of those things I know that would bother a lot of other people. So another thing that I would have to call the con, of course, is the price. And something like this is going to be expensive. There's a lot of R&D that goes into these types of products. I get all of that. I know some people are gonna have an issue with the price. A lot of people had an issue with the price of the Mark II, which was quite a bit cheaper than this one, but this is twice the output. So this is going to serve a different purpose for a different group of people. So I'm gonna continue to use this thing. I'm very happy with it. I have no major complaints. Really the main complaints that I found over time with the Mark II, the ventilation, having to clean the thing out, that became pretty annoying, or I guess back here. Now that that thing has a screen, that's gonna make that a lot easier. The fact that this has more output, it has a thermostat, it has a working remote. It's not gonna leak all over the place. It actually has a pump built into the hose, so it'll get the water, the condensation that it builds up, it's gonna pump that outside of wherever you choose. Those little features are gonna make such a difference using this thing. I'll be using this at home. I'll be using this whenever I'm going out on trips into the desert and stuff, which we are doing another one soon, I believe. And so I'm gonna put more time in with this thing, but my first impressions are that they did a lot of stuff to upgrade the things that people were complaining about. How many ACs out there can you run with solar panels? I mean, I think that these things are just brilliant. If you want to check one of these things out, I will put links below to the various models, and I'll link the Zero Breeze Mark II, because that still might be an option for some people out there. Though, if you're going to spend the money on something this expensive, personally at this point, I know it's a lot more, but just get something that's more functional at home, because you can actually cool a room, a pretty decent sized room with this. And then get something that just, this is a better product than the first one was, the second one was, I guess I should say. All right, guys, that's what I have for today. Thank you so much for watching, and until next time.
As always, thank you so much for watching, and click one of the videos in the corner to check out more of our adventure, off-road, and overland related content.